incredible recycling story, a very environmentally friendly hobby. My next guest grew up at the start of the computer craze in the early 1980s. Instead of playing cops and robbers in the playground, he and his mates were busy perfecting their skills on these Game & Watch handsets. So of all these that you've now collected, what were the kinds that you were playing with as a boy?
It was any of these double screen Game & Watches, all the single screen ones down there. They're all good fun.
And what kind of games were you playing on?
Well, I had like this one, which is Donkey Kong. This was one of the most popular ones. You control Mario, and you have to free his girlfriend from the top of the level here.
These must have been quite expensive toys at the time.
Yeah, they were. The doubles here were 25 to £30 each, which was quite a lot. So it was just like a birthday or Christmas present, really. But people did tend to swap them as well. So you get bored with the game, you swap it for another one.
What about the old personal computers? How were games played on these then?
Well, on like the Spectrum here, you actually had a tape deck, and you bought your game with a cassette, and you had to put it into the computer and load it in, which took about 5 minutes, and eventually your game would come up, or you could actually type your own games in if you were any good. But they were very, very basic, but good fun all the same.
How much are they worth now compared with the kind of retail prices at the time?
Well, this one, for example, the Atari was probably a couple of £100 when it first came out, but you could pick one up for about £25 now, or less, you know, at a boot sale even.
How durable are they, given that they must have been given quite a lot of punishment in the 70s and 80s?
Well, they're pretty good. It's with the console systems, I've yet to find one which doesn't work, but the computers, they do tend to break down from time to time. They can be repaired, but it's just easier to get another system.
So what about that one on the end, say? Is that still available?
It's not available anymore. It's quite a nice little system, quite desirable nowadays, but you can't buy them anymore, I'm afraid. But they do still turn up from time to time.
What about the quality of the game, something like Pac-Man?
Well, the Pac-Man here is very, very basic by today's standards, but was a bestseller in its time, sold 2 million units, which was massive, really. Good fun, even now.
Do you still play with them then?
Well, very occasionally. I wouldn't say I play them all the time. I prefer the modern systems like the PlayStation or the Nintendo.
If someone forks out for something like this, perhaps for nostalgia reasons or whatever, do they tend to want the magazines that go with them?
They do. The magazines are important to know which games to buy for the system. If you're going to be buying an old game, you want it to be a good game. So the magazines of the time told you what was what. So the magazines are in demand now, yeah.
Which, in your view, were the really good games, the one that stood the test of time?
Well, Pac-Man is a classic, and Donkey Kong over there is another very good one. Plus, for the Spectrum here, you've got Manic Miner or Jet Set Willy. Any of the Ultimate games are very good.
Bringing us more up to date, what's something like this?
That's the Virtual Boy. It was only released in Japan and America. Pretty much state-of-the-art in 1996. Good fun, but sadly didn't take off, so that's a good investment for the future, that one.
So when did you realise that this was such a strong area for collecting?
Well, 2 or 3 years ago, I thought, yeah, I'd like to get a bit nostalgic on my old games and try and pick them up again. Plus, there was a lot of internet sites devoted to like the Atari and the Spectrum and the Game & Watches. I thought, yeah, there's people out there looking for this stuff, and I think I can pick it up myself. So I just started collecting it.
For someone who was really into computers, what of all that you've got here would they envy you most?
Well, the boxed Game & Watches are particularly desirable. There's a lot of people looking for boxed ones.
What sort of prices are we talking about?
Well, something like Donkey Kong, which is more common, would be like £30. Those two there, which are quite rare, boxed Game & Watches, they'd be up to 100. And you'd sell them quite easily at that price, yeah.
Are you now buying brand new games, keeping them in their boxes as an investment for the future?
I am, yeah. I think it's worth doing that. When you buy a new game, look after the box, because you never know.
Good advice. Thanks very much indeed for coming on the programme.